who are trying to coalesce and
showing to themselves as well as to the world that they...
Welcome, I'm Ian Harrison for Crimson Trace. This interactive DVD has been designed to educate you about Crimson Trace products. We're going to show you how to operate our weapon-mounted lights and lasers, the advantages they give, and how you can use them in real-world situations. When it comes to personal protection, a Crimson Trace-equipped firearm should not be regarded as an accessory. Rather, it's a necessity. The advantages it gives are many, and we're going to demonstrate those to you throughout this DVD. To help us do that, we've assembled some of the best experts in the firearms industry. Julie Gollop, Todd Jarrett, Richard Mann, Michael Bain, Dave Starrett, and myself, Ian Harrison. Here at Gunsite Academy, one of the world's foremost training facilities. We're going to use the range complex here to show you real-life scenarios and tactics so that you can get the Crimson Trace Laser's Edge. You may be a new shooter, an experienced firearms owner, law enforcement or military. It doesn't matter. Crimson Trace will make you a more confident and accurate shooter. The world can be a dangerous place. Rest assured that all of us at Crimson Trace are working hard to give you the world's finest laser sighting systems so that you can remain confident and safe at home or away. Now, let's go to the Gunsite range and learn all about the Crimson Trace Laser's Edge.
Welcome everybody. I'm super excited to be here at this incredible facility. Fantastic long range view, and I'm really excited to get in that playhouse this afternoon.
Playhouses is a lot of fun. We've got about 3,000 square feet, 360-degree live fire capabilities in there. We can set up all kinds of scenarios. We bring our clients in there. We have them work indoor problems, teach them how to work doorways, clear rooms. It's a great time. It's an excellent training opportunity. I'm really interested to see what benefit Crimson Trace lights and lasers are going to bring to this, what they'll do to help out in a real-life situation.
Yeah, one thing I found, especially when you go into room clearing scenarios, is that the instinctive activation aspect of Crimson Trace grips is the biggest benefit I see. I don't know if you've met me, but I have difficulty walking and chewing gum at the same time. So if there's extra buttons and switches,
I have seen this.
Yeah, I fall down quite a lot, but I'm very fast. But yeah, if you use any additional buttons and switches out there on the laser, then I just fumble them. So if it's a case of just picking up the gun, laser comes on, index off the front of the gun, and then go to town.
And that's the same whether it's a laser grip or a laser guard. The activation's instinctive. Yeah.
And that's a really critical point with like the new concealed carry market, because a lot of the new people coming in, they come from an iPhone world.
Yeah.
They don't want to buy the pieces of the system and assemble it and hope that it works.
Everybody's been, I think, spoiled by the point and click interface, and they expect it to be easy to use, and really it should be easy to use. I mean, it's a life-saving tool. Why shouldn't you be able to just pick it up and use it? My name is Ian Harrison. I'm the Media Relations Manager for Crimson Trace. I first became professionally involved in firearms when I joined the British Army. I served 8 years as an infantry officer. I have this reputation of being a fairly fierce competitor, but really I'm just out the range having fun, hanging with some friends and tearing it down. One of the biggest advantages Crimson Trace brings to the self-defense environment is its instinctive activation. What this means is that you simply pick up the weapon in a firing grip and there's no additional buttons, switches or toggles to press. Just grab the gun, the laser comes on. This is vital when seconds count. What do we mean by this? Well, we've got 2 guns on the range now, one with a Crimson Trace product, one with a competitor's laser. Let's see how they perform in a real-life setting. We've set up a very simple demonstration on the range here to show the advantages of Crimson Trace's instinctive activation. I've got 2 very similar snub-nose revolvers in .38 Special here, and I've got one with Crimson Trace laser grips installed, and the Crimson Trace product. You can see the instinctive activation button here on the front strap, and all I'm going to do is pick the gun up off the table and engage the first target. We're then going to compare a competitive product with activation somewhere on the right-hand side of the gun. I've got to find a little button here to activate. You can imagine how difficult that's going to be. And then we're going to see how long it's going to take me to shoot the target with this gun. Both guns are going to be on the clock. You're going to see them side by side. We'll see which one comes out on top. First, we're going to show you the speed and ease of use in real time. Then show you the same action in slow motion, where you can really see all the mechanics, motions and actions involved. This is where the difference between the instinctive activation from Crimson Trace and all other activation methods is a huge advantage, when fractions of a second really count. As you can see from the test we just did, instinctive activation is not only faster, it's more accurate too. Those benefits extend to whether or not you're using the original Crimson Trace laser grips, such as on this J-frame, or the new laser guard, such as on my personal Smith & Wesson Shield here, both of which have instinctive activation buttons on the front strap. In both instances, just pick up the gun, the laser turns on instantly, and you can go to work. You're looking for that peripheral threat out there, and you're not going to be focused on your front sight when you're doing that. So having that target-based laser system where you have the dot on the target rather than focused 3 feet in front of your face.
Because realistically, no matter how often we talk about the front sight, you've got like 4 million years of evolution that says, oh, look, the threat.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to look at the threat.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I found in training people or in my experience as a police officer, taking your focus off of that threat onto something else is probably the absolute hardest thing there is to do.
Well, that's what we're all looking for here. We're looking for, this roundtable here is for us to really figure out how the best way the customer can actually use a product in the correct way, whether it be a Gunsite or at their local range.
Well, and especially the women. Like, my wife come to Gunsite for the first time last year, and one of the big questions she dealt with was, what kind of gun do I take? And, I think there's a big misconception with so-called experts at gun stores. They know what a woman wants, and Julie, that ain't the case.
Yeah. It's just like anything else. Same woman buys the same pair of jeans. I mean, you want something that's going to fit you, something that you're going to feel confident with, something that you're going to shoot well. And at the end of the day, that could be a wide variety of things. The first tendency is often to throw a revolver a woman's way. Yeah. And that may work for a lot of women. And I've carried a revolver for a number of years. But I prefer something small and light, but something that I can manipulate, like the M&P Shield. Yeah. It's something that I can work with, be accurate with, and be confident with, and that's the most important thing.
Well, and you do a lot of training with women, too, right?
Yeah.
And you use lasers in that training?
Absolutely. It's fantastic. It's a fantastic tool because not only can I see the errors that they're making in trigger control and in shot anticipation, but they can see it, too. Yeah. And so it's almost self-training at the same time. My name is Julie Golub. I've been a shooter pretty much most of my life. I started shooting when I was 14, competitively. I joined the military in 1995 as military police, but I went straight to the Army Marksmanship Unit, and I was the first and only female there. In all my years as a competitive shooter, I'm always looking for tools that make me better. So today we're going to talk about how lasers can make you a more accurate and confident shooter. Hi, I'm Julie Gollum.
I'm Karen from Gunsite.
Nice to meet you. We're going to do some fun training today. Karen, one of the great advantages to a laser is actually in drive practice. As an instructor, I can see what you're doing on your target, and you have that positive affirmation of what you're doing as well. So what we're going to do today is go through some basic drills in drive practice, and show what you're doing with the laser on target so you can actually improve your accuracy. Okay, so go ahead and pull the gun out. Show me clear. Okay, we are clear. And go ahead and extend onto the target. Okay, you see the laser there? Mm-hmm. Go ahead and break the shot. Did you see how that flipped? The laser just went straight down? Mm-hmm. That's exactly what I'm talking about, and now you can see it too. You anticipated pulling the trigger, pulled the gun straight down. Go ahead and rack the slide again. We'll try to dry fire this one more time. This time I really want you to focus on smooth trigger control. Beautiful, it didn't even move. And so that's going to drill that center of the target for you every single time. The other great thing about a laser is it also shows you what you're doing with your muzzle at all times. Go ahead and holster. And we're going to just go through the motion of drawing your pistol. Okay, so go ahead and just draw and aim. Okay, so you see how the laser kind of started high on the target instead of coming straight at the target? You can even be shooting at this point by keeping aware of where your muzzle is, but the laser is actually showing you where your muzzle is pointing at every single time. So go ahead and draw again. This time really focus on good muzzle control. Much better. Okay, go ahead and holster. Should we go ahead and try this in live fire?
Sure.
All right, let's do it. Okay, so we had a great classroom session. Now we're in live fire. We're going to put all these things to the test. You ready?
Yes.
Okay, for the first thing I want you to do is go ahead and take 3 shots at your own pace on target. Okay, go ahead and load and make ready. Fire when ready. Okay, pretty good. You had one low one right there. That means you probably dropped it low just as you were anticipating the shot. You pulled it down a little bit. Okay. What we're going to do now is this time I want you to really use that laser to focus on keeping it in the center of the target while you pull the shot. Okay. Okay? Go ahead and fire when ready. Really focus there. Nice and smooth. Beautiful. You can cover those up with one pacer, basically. Great job. See how the difference with the laser, you can really improve that accuracy? Yes. Cool. Very good. You know, I think it all comes down to being confident, and what you have in front of you, the easiest way to use the gun in the most proficient way is going to be the most successful way. So having a laser system on your gun is going to take out all of those variables that you might be worried about as a shooter. Just point, get it on target, get the job done.
We can all still learn from, from everybody, whether it be civilians, law enforcement, because, you're military, you're ex-military, and you're ex-military, and you guys, you two guys were law enforcement, and, and Mike's, he's a TV star. I'm not sure what Mike wears.
I checked the box marked other.
Right. And Julie, she's, a competitive shooter that she is. So, myself being a pro shooter, we can all learn from each other, and which makes it nice being a former cop. We talk about shields and, how important that is, where the lasers, how that kind of came about years ago. How big of an advantage was that for law enforcement in your eyes?
It was really big. That was my first experience with a laser, was running a ballistic shield, and you're looking through a very small window. So you can't really get your hand around to get a sight picture, so that laser was really invaluable so that you could get a sight on something without actually lining up the sights through that small field of view.
One of the things you have to be when you're working the street as a cop is you got to be cognizant of everything around you. You can't get focused on a single threat. And being able to put your red dot on the threat and know that you've got that threat covered in case you have to pull the trigger, but still let your peripheral vision pick up around you so other threats, so you can move. I mean, it makes a big difference. Richard Mann. I'm a freelance gun writer and firearms consultant. Well, I grew up a hunter, and I was the youngest at the time, so I always got the first shot. It would have been really nice if I'd had a laser to put on the gun to help me learn the sight alignment and trigger control about 43 years ago. Look at me. No, look at all of me. Now, I know I'm not Tom Selleck, even with the hat. But if I'm a bad guy, you better be looking at me, every bit of me. Why? I might have a gun. Now, this is a safe gun, by the way. And if I have a gun, I may decide to pull it. And if I do, it's going to be quick. You need to see that movement when it starts, not when it's over. This brings up one of the problems with open sights. When you're pointing a gun at a bad guy, the profile of the sights and your hands cover the bad guy's danger areas. And I'm talking about his waistband and his hands. You need to be able to see those areas so you can react appropriately. Now, a lot of people talk about stopping power. The true stopping power of a handgun are not the bullets that come out of the barrel. It's the psychological effect it has when it's pointed at someone. You can ask any police officer. They point handguns at people much more often than they pull triggers. And generally it produces the standard response, which is hands up. Now we get to one of the advantages of laser sights. If you have someone that you've stopped by pointing a handgun at them, with the laser sights you can hold the handgun down below your vision plane. This allows you to see the bad guy, his hands, his waist, everything involving the bad guy. You can even pull that handgun back close to your body where you have much more control of it in case someone would try to take it away from you. And finally, one last point. Another advantage of laser sights is that they help you fight off tunnel vision. When you're using standard sights and focusing on a target or a bad guy, you typically get tunnel vision. What I'm talking about is the areas around the target become blurry. With the laser sight, where you can drop it down below your vision plane or pull it back in close to your body, you can still see the red dot where you want it. But it opens up your peripheral vision to see maybe other bad guys or family members or innocent people that may be standing around. Now, contrary to what my mother-in-law says, I'm not really a bad guy. But the message to you is, it's what you don't see that will kill you. Now, where's my hat?
Most of the sights that we use, iron sights, that are pretty antiquated. They're designed to use 7 yards away. So what happens is once you get past that distance, you end up having other issues. You have to focus more on the sight. And so when I'm working with my students, I always tell them, sight picture, sight picture, sight picture. But they'll go like, well, Todd, is covering up a lot of the target once I get past that 7 to 10 yard line. Say if you had to make a very hard precision shot, it's difficult when you got a sight that's covering up maybe 30, 40, 50% of the target. And, with a laser gives us much more pinpoint accuracy.
Well, yeah, and the best sight is the big sight.
Right.
A big sight you can see easy, and then the further away you get from you, that bigger sight covers more of the target. And we've talked about concealed carry. That topic keeps coming up. And Dave, here at Gunsite, just to give us an idea of, you get a lot of students in here. What kind of changes have you seen in the last couple of years as far as students in concealed carry?
Some of the things we're seeing is everybody is now interested in concealed carry, not just open carry working from a simple holster. Everybody's wanting to know more day-to-day what's really going to apply to my life. So we're seeing a lot more interest in concealed carry classes and techniques as well. And we're starting to see a lot more, not your typical gun enthusiast, say, but your average citizen and families. And we're seeing a lot of people come out. They're coming out in couples, husband, wife, bringing children even. Sometimes we'll have 5 or 6 of the same family members coming to classes. And these are the questions they're asking. How do I carry and how do I apply this in my everyday life?
With Best Defense, you get a lot of feedback from the audience. I mean, what are you seeing? What are you getting real time back from just people who are looking at it?
The audience has changed. And I don't think any of us were really prepared for this flood of concealed carry holders that have come into the gun culture. Over the last couple of years, what I see is much more female, much younger, and less of what we think of as kind of the knowledge that anybody at this table is going to take as granted. We came up with guns. We grew up with them. We have we've shot competitively for years. But when I'm talking to new concealed carry holders, the questions they have are questions that that we had in the beginning too. It's just been a long time since the beginning. But I think as an industry, it surprised us. I'm Michael Bain, and for the last 10 years I've been working on television doing guns. My flagship show, Shooting Gallery, is now in its 13th season. There's been a profound change in the gun culture in the last, say, 5 to 10 years. Gun culture version 2.0 is driven by concealed carry, by the training community, and by the practical shooting sports. A grip-mounted laser gives you, as a civilian, an advantage. You're going to use it at a time when the stress level is going to be through the ceiling. You need any advantage that you can give yourself. And I feel very strong that that laser is a critical advantage. The amazing growth of concealed carry has changed a lot of things, but there's some things it simply can't change. When we talk about a carry gun, the things that make it easy to carry, like this Ruger LCP, one of the most successful carry guns in history, are that it's light, it's small. That means it recoils more, it barks, it makes it harder to shoot. The easier the gun is to carry, the harder it is to shoot. Secondly, take a look at those sights. If you look at my bedside gun, it not only has a laser, it not only has a flashlight, it's got great big blocky sights. Makes it really easy to get an excellent sight picture. So carry guns, typically, maybe not so great on sights. And that's where the laser comes in. A second critical point. Let's take a look at this demo 1911. It's obviously been disabled for demonstration purposes. See that red dot? When we talk about criminals, what we're talking about are individuals that make risk-reward decisions. They're trying to decide if you are going to be prey today. When they see that red dot or they see that green dot, there's one thing they know with absolute certainty, and that's there is a bullet behind the dot. So it doesn't actually matter if it's a small frame woman or maybe a guy who's really a little shaky. The bullet is coming after the dot. It helps criminals make a really informed decision. Thirdly, and this is an important issue, it doesn't matter where you draw the gun from, where the presentation is. If it's out of your bedside table, if it's from an ankle holster, it's on your hip, it's in an IWB at any point, the activation is going to work all the time. An interesting point with laser grips, just to show you here, we as instructors will say, hey, make sure you get a good firing grip on the gun. And then we describe to you what that is. Things that we feel we learn better. The great advantage of a laser grip is you know when you've done a good job of gripping the gun because the laser comes on. We strongly suggest that you practice and practice and practice safely, dry, no ammunition in the room. The laser will teach you how to grip the gun. It doesn't matter whether the laser is on a grip or on the trigger guard. It always works perfect in low light situations. And finally, Crimson Trace strongly recommends that you get training. And so do I. The training is out there if you are willing to look for it. And you owe it to yourself as a concealed carry holder. You're going into public, the loaded gun on your hip. You owe it to your loved ones. You owe it to the people around you. And it makes you, I think, a better person. The more knowledgeable you become with that firearm, the more responsible concealed carry holder you're going to be. One issue too is that when we all teach on a square range, it's an ideal world. Everything is perfect. You're not necessarily teaching on the square range when it's snowing, when it's raining, when all those things that happen in the real world. And for a concealed carry holder, at the very point that they use that gun, it's going to be the worst moment of their life. It's going to be the highest stress moment of their life. And I think if we all took a poll, we would say it's going to be in the dark and it's going to be really crummy weather. Bad things typically happen in the dark, and when they do happen, you need light, instant light, like the Crimson Trace Light Guard system. Now, typically, we don't search with a weapons-mounted light. That's reserved for threat verification. We see a threat, we throw the light on to make sure we identify that threat. You don't want to be pointing this at a family member, the dog, anything that you don't want to kill or destroy. However, if you have to search, if this is the only light that you have, the Crimson Trace system is designed to be a very broad beam. It's not a very narrow beam. That allows you to search along the edges. The other advantage of this system is it operates with one hand. You've got really good light discipline. It's easy to turn the light off and on. Suppose you have an aggressor on the ground. Maybe there's no shots fired. You're able to hold that weapons-mounted light just off to the side of that aggressor. So if he or she should look back towards you, they're looking directly into a very bright light. And it allows you to bring the gun very quickly back onto the threat. It also gives you your support hand, which you can use to maybe call 911, or if you have family members with you, to control them. So this hand is able to make sure that they're behind you, that they're out of harm's way. And look at the profile on the light guard. It's narrow. That's critically important for a concealed carry holder. That means you're going to be able to get holsters that fit with the light mounted on your gun. So you will have that light when you need it. And remember, everything looks better in the light. A key point on cover too, Todd, and Dave, you can address this, is one of the things that we've taught on Best Defense is that cover is timed. So you say, I need you to move to cover. You move to cover. Well, if there's an aggressor there, if there's an aggressor out there, the aggressor is also moving. So the minute you're behind cover, it's as if a clock now started running because you have to line up your next cover.
Well, shooting on the move is something that I've been, doing in competition for 20-some odd years, and I try to teach that to law enforcement, and that kind of bleeds over on the civilian side because we truly won't be able. I always tell everybody, you always got somewhere to go. If you're in law enforcement, in the military, even a civilian, you've got to keep yourself moving, either to get to cover, maybe to concealment, or you just want to get out of that area. As far as competition goes, for me, I've learned so much about how I position myself, arm extension, balance control, and any odd positions and presentation to the firearm to the to the target itself saves valuable time, which we can take that, Richard, and use it in law enforcement, also community too. I'm Todd Jarrett. I have spent almost 30 years of my life shooting, and I still shoot roughly around 85,000 rounds a year. I would say from 1986 until 1996, I handled a gun 4 hours a day for 10 years. I've won 9 U.S. Nationals in action shooting. I'm a 4-time world champion. Winning my first world championship by far was the highlight of my career. You are at Gunsite Training Shooting Academy. Today we're going to talk about concealed carry holders and some of the things that we do, like a scenario in a parking lot. What we're going to be working with today is trying to teach you the best way to be able to have the best use of your firearm and learning how to use that, like oblique angles or odd angles that you may have to get around to be able to shoot another target on the range. Not only shooting on the move is going to be an advantage for you, but I'm going to show you how to do that properly with the targets we have on the range out here. So when we start talking about shooting on the move, these are things that are going to potentially save your life moving to cover or moving some type of concealment. So let's talk about the very first scenario we have here. I'm getting out of a vehicle, and as I move out of the vehicle, I'm using a cross draw, engaging 3 targets downrange. I'm looking over top of the gun, and the reason why I'm doing that is because the laser gives me pinpoint accuracy, where the front sight now is actually wider than the target, and also I'm dealing with a low light scenario. With a low light scenario, that precision and accuracy with the laser is what we're looking for.
So when you're practicing with these techniques, I will tell you that the laser itself will give you a huge advantage of being able to give you precision and accuracy.
Let's talk about lasers and iron sights on the move for concealed carry. You must always want to put yourself in a situation where you have to be able to move from one position to another. By looking at iron sights, it's very difficult to concentrate on the front sight and also look at the target. The laser gives you huge advantages because you're always concentrating on the target. If you're moving and the target's moving, you can never ever concentrate on the front sight. The laser gives you that precision and accuracy at all times. Whenever my hand is on the gun, you will always notice that the laser is on. Instinctive activation is a hallmark of all Crimson Trace products.
These are the things that are going to save your life. And this is why we come out and practice on the range.
I tell everybody is that, if you're interested in some type of competition and you want to work on techniques like that, that we have that civilians can go out and do. And it's a great place and opportunity to go out there and hone your skills.
The issue we've looked at Best Defense and Shooting Gallery is in terms of concealed carry. We become increasingly less concerned about the gun and more concerned about this overall package. To me, I would rather see you with a laser on anything.
I test guns for a living. I test ammunition for a living. And if there's one thing that I'm absolutely sure of now, there's no magic gun, there's no magic bullet. But one thing about the laser, it can make you a more accurate and a more confident shooter.
It gets hard to remember and manipulate a lot of different things. You do tend to sort of zero in on the simplest aspects of what's going on. We've touched on different sized guns and some of the benefits of Crimson Trace. Let's talk about the difference between a red and a green laser. I'm starting to see green a lot more prevalent.
Yeah, for the longest time, red's been the only way to go. And that's like a 635 nanometer laser. Green is becoming more prevalent, and green has a lot of technical difficulties to overcome. For example, they draw a lot of power. And the reason they do that is instead of just a laser diode and a lens, you then have an 808 nanometer diode, you have a frequency doubler chip, you have a collimator, you have a lens.
But primarily, the point of the green laser is it's easier to see.
Yeah.
There's a visible light spectrum between ultraviolet and infrared. Mm-hmm. Green's right in the middle. Humans evolved in nature, and the most prevalent color in nature is, guess what? The one we can see the easiest, which is green.
Now, green's really visible at bright sunlight and noontime, that sort of time. But if you're using it as a low-light tool, which most of us do, then red is just as valuable and just as valid an option when you do that.
So, we've covered almost every aspect here. We've talked about instinctive activation, weapon-mounted lights, threat verification, concealed carry. We've covered all these topics where a laser can be beneficial. And in a minute, we're going to see how this works in real life.
Who are trying to coalesce and form some kind of government, and if so, based on what model?
Showing to themselves as well as to the world that they can take over once Bashar al-Assad leaves power, but they are hampered.
As you can see, Crimson Trace can give you the laser's edge in a real-world self-defense scenario. We've covered a lot of ground in this DVD. We've shown you the advantages of instinctive activation. We've shown you how lasers can be a vital tool in your own training regimen, whether or not you're an expert or a beginner shooter. We've demonstrated how weapon-mounted lights can help you identify and illuminate a threat, and how lasers can help you make hits from unconventional shooting positions or on the move. We've also shown how lasers can improve your target visibility and how they're vital in a concealed carry environment. I'd like to thank our experts, Julie Golub, Todd Jarrett, Michael Bain, Richard Mann, Dave Starren, and of course our hosts here at Gunsite. In short, I hope we've shown you how you can acquire the tools to make you a more accurate and confident shooter.
This is Todd interview, take one.
Action!
That didn't work.
Gunsite has not got into the zombie craze. We will teach you how to defend yourself, absolutely. No matter what that may be. Zombie, bad guy, creature, whatever it is. There is very little photographic evidence of me smiling.
Action!
Hi, Richard.
Tiffany.
Can you tell us a little bit about where you were born and raised and about the culture you were brought up in?
I was born in West Virginia. Probably 85% hillbilly, and I guess the rest is probably redneck.
Action!
I have an audience now. Oh my god. Todd Jarrett's here.
Can I ask you a couple questions?
Yes.
Oh, you really Julie Golub?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Oh, you a real shooter?
Yes.
You are. Have you ever shot a real gun?
Okay, we don't have time for this. Go.
Okay, move forward.